Yes, folks, welcome back to Talking Wolves. We are back for another match preview. The fixtures are coming thick and fast as we approach the festive period. Hope you guys are keeping well and safe. As always, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But a midweek fixture at Molineux. It seems like a while since we've had one of those in the Premier League, so I'm really looking forward to it. Under the lights. Of course, it's going to be a little bit chilly down there, so make sure you get your layers on. But we're facing off against the Burnley side, who before this weekend just gone were really struggling, had just one win in the Premier League, and looking like one of the favourites to possibly go down. Of course, there's still a chance that may well happen, but they've come off the back of a massive 5-0 win against Sheffield United. So that's going to give them plenty of confidence going into this game tomorrow evening at Molineux. You'll see some of the stats popping up on the screen throughout the video, but really the stats and the form in this fixture really leans towards Burnley. Wolves have not had good luck in this fixture whatsoever, which really surprised me going into this match, to be honest. But Wolves obviously being at home, we've been good at Molineux so far this season. Of course, we've dropped points over the last couple of games, losing out to Arsenal on Saturday, and of course losing to Fulham this time last week as well. But yeah, the thing that does work in Wolves' favour is 4 unbeaten and now at home, with us beating City and Spurs, and of course drawing with Aston Villa and Newcastle in that time as well. And this is the start of a couple of crucial home fixtures for Gary O'Neill against Burnley and against Nottingham Forest. Both games really where Wolves need to get something out of them. No disrespect to Burnley and Nottingham Forest, but Wolves should be beating them. And if we do get 6 points, that would be a really successful week for Wolves and really push us back up the table, which is what we need ahead of a tough away fixture a week on Saturday at West Ham United as well. Of course, plenty of team news going into this game as well. It sounds like Ryan Aït-Nouri and Pedro Neto still won't be available for this particular fixture. Sounds like they're both not ready for it as of yet. Hopefully we do see them take some part in the game against Forest if that isn't too soon. But both of those still not available for this match. Jose Sarr, he did come off injured against Arsenal. It sounds like he's at least back in training, so you would imagine he's going to be available for the game on Tuesday night against Burnley as well. One of the big ones, well, I say big one, he's not really played a big part in the team, but Johnny, he was not in the squad at all on Saturday against Arsenal. I did look at the bench and I was trying to figure out who was missing from that team because it was a very inexperienced bench. Great opportunity for a couple of the younger under-21 lads to be in the first team matchday squad. But it was revealed yesterday that it was an internal matter and there was a training ground incident, meaning Johnny at the moment is out of contention. He's not going to be in the squad tomorrow against Burnley either. We spoke about it a little bit on our podcast, which was released this morning. If you want to go and check that one out. Sounds like from what some of us have been told is that he wasn't happy with the decision not to bring him on against Fulham on Monday. With Matt Doherty obviously coming on ahead of him on Monday, and obviously we gave our thoughts and opinions on that during that video, during the podcast as well. But yeah, Burnley, look, you would hope that Wolves have enough to beat them, but coming off the back of a really big win, they're going to have that confidence, they're going to have that sort of morale and motivation to carry on and doing the right thing. But Wolves are still, showing that bit of quality going forward. Still another game on Saturday which we scored in. I think it's 13 straight Premier League games now which we scored in, which is a really, really good return for Wolves, especially as we were a team that really struggled to score goals over the last couple of seasons. So I'm hoping, we can really test that Burnley defence out, who've conceded a decent amount of goals so far this season. Let's look at my predicted lineup anyway. It's an interesting one. Obviously, with Lamina and João Gomez both back, I would slot them two straight in there. I think the back five is going to be unchanged, if I'm honest. I think Hugo Bueno will keep his spot there. Jose Sarr retaining his place in goal as well, with Totti Dawson and Kilman and Semedo at the back there. Lamina and João Gomez to come back in. And the front three, I think, will be unchanged as well. With Bellegarde, Cunha and Hwang. We did speak about it on the podcast. Could we see someone like Sarabia get some more minutes? I wouldn't be against possibly seeing him start against Burnley as well. But of course, you've got Bellegarde to start. And I think that squad should be strong enough to try and get the 3 points against Burnley tomorrow. But They are a good team still, so Wolves do have to be wary of that. And they've just come off the back of a big win as well, which they'll be looking forward to. But we'll get the Burnley perspective now. I spoke to Joe earlier on from the Turfcast podcast YouTube channel, and these are his thoughts ahead of tomorrow night's game. So then, guys, delighted to be alongside Joe from the Turfcast page for today's opposition preview as Burnley come to Molineux. Joe, how are you keeping, brother?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you, all good. Interesting game, this one, Joe, because Burnley have just come off the back of a massive 5-0 win over Sheffield United. A Sheffield United whose only win of the season actually came against Wolves. But I think this time, a few days ago, before the weekend, Wolves would have been looking at this game and thinking, right, we should be able to get something out of it. But all of a sudden, it's a much trickier game, I think, for Wolves fans to look at. But Burnley so far this season still sat in 19th, mate, only with the 2 wins. But I'm sure you can take a lot of confidence from that victory, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a fan, I was looking at the next few games worrying. I was like, we might get something out of Sheffield United, but then we've got Wolves and Brighton both away next, so we'll get nothing out of them. So we need to, we need to scrape something against Sheffield United. But obviously to beat them 5-0 and to absolutely dominate them from minute 1, like we scored the first goal after 15 seconds, and then all the way to minute 90, like they offered nothing. I know some people will point to the sending off, but they were already beaten by them, mate. They were already beaten. That's why they were fouling us the way they were. It gives me as a fan a lot more confidence looking at these 2 games. I'm thinking we can get something out of both of these games now. And obviously that'll reflect in the players and the management. So they'll obviously have a different mindset going into it. So obviously playing a team full of confidence is going to be a lot more difficult than playing a team down on confidence. And that's where we come into it with this one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Burnley so far, I'm sure, I'll get your thoughts. You're probably disappointed with where you are in the table right now, but there was a lot of media and probably sort of general football chat that Burnley should be absolutely fine this season after how well you did in Championship last season. Was that the thoughts of Burnley fans as well? And sort of from now versus then, what are your thoughts? Are you about where you expected to be? Were you expected to be in a relegation dogfight, or did you expect to be a little bit better so far this season?
No, to be honest, I expected to be higher. I've seen a few comments from Sheffield United and Luton fans as well, because there was a lot of, like you say, media praise about Burnley. And I was on a Sheffield United show this week after the match, actually. And they did get the media darlings dig in there. But it's more aimed at company than it is at Burnley. And I think, because Burnley have always been seen in a negative light in the press, like under Dyche, it was always negative. And now we've got company. We're just enjoying something a little bit different. But there was a lot of that, like, we all got carried away with the hype. But I think with good reason as well. Like, we were so good in the Championship last season, and I know the 2 different leagues. But I think we got more points than Fulham the year before, who then stayed up and stayed up quite comfortably that year. And then we spent over 100 million quid in the summer. So when you look at them 2 factors, you can understand why the Burnley fans were thinking, push for mid-table. Like, that's what I was thinking. I thought we'd be in a relegation battle, but kind of similar to the position that you're in now. Like, kind of looking over your shoulders, but thinking we will probably be fine. And then thinking, well, we can push on for top half. That's the position I thought we'd be in. So to find us where we are, the run of form leading up to the Sheffield United game was nothing short of shambolic. And some of the performances have been nothing short of shambolic. When Everton got their 10-point deduction, the fact that we were still bottom of the table was embarrassing. Like, it genuinely was embarrassing. And we finished 21 points above Luton last season, and we're now below them in the table. That's also embarrassing. So I think you can see why Burnley fans were expectant. So yeah, I'm not happy with the position that we're in, but the last few games have got better. All right, people might look at it and think you've only won one. They've lost 7 before that. Yes, but the performances have been better. We were unlucky against West Ham to concede the way we did, although the defensive issues were the reason why we did that rather than luck. But we were the better side, is the point I'm trying to make, over the 90 minutes against West Ham, who will tell you that they're European champions. But they won a European trophy in the summer. Not the European trophy. So we did well in that game. And it was the same against Palace, and it was the same against Arsenal. Arsenal just turned the screw. They're better than us, so they're gonna beat us. But we gave a good account of ourselves, and it was the same against Palace at home and West Ham at home. We could have easily won both of them and still now be in a good position. But the performances are there. We are getting better, and hopefully we can carry it into Tuesday's game at Molineux.
Yeah. So what do you think has gone wrong so far? I mean, you mentioned that there have been some promising performances there, but do you think it's just sort of early teething problems? Are Burnley fans sort of satisfied with the way company's setting up? Has there been any sort of discontent with how you've been playing and setting up? Or what do you think is the reason that Burnley have struggled so far?
Well, I think first of all, like I said, we spent all this money.
Mm,
And a lot of it at the time was on, well, we thought it was on potential. Like we signed James Trafford for 20 million quid. I thought he would be on the bench behind Muric, maybe go out on loan in the Championship, and then, we'd have a ready-made keeper in a couple of years who will be England's number one day. But at 19, I think he is. I might be wrong. Double check that if you want
mm,
to. He was thrown straight in, and he has looked not dodgy. That's the wrong word, but he has looked like a rabbit caught in headlights at times. Like especially with crosses. He doesn't do well with crosses. He did okay against Sheffield United, punched a couple, and he got his first clean sheet of the season. So again, going back to the confidence thing I mentioned in the other answer, I think that will do him the world of confidence, and hopefully he can now come for crosses against you guys and maybe start collecting them. That would be nice, James, if you're watching. But then not just that as well, like we kind of ripped the entire team up from last season. Like your man Mo Benson, all right, he's been injured. But he's not been playing. Anas Sarore, who was fantastic last season, he's not been playing. We kind of just ripped the team up. And then that company has this thing like where he says certain players need around 100 training sessions with me to start getting it. But then it was bizarre that he then ripped up the entire squad and put loads of new players in there. So they're going to need these 100 training sessions now to get used to the system. And we're starting to see it now. We are starting to see these players getting used to it. But we did, for how good we were last season in the Championship, we did actually take a while to click. I think after about 4 or 5 games, we were like 11th. And Blackburn were actually top, and they created loads of memes about them being top and us being 11th. By the end of the season, it switched, which was quite funny. But we are starting to come out the other end of it now. But yeah, in terms of the discontent with company, there has been some, like I've been fully 100% behind him. And I do feel like pretty much anybody that says company out, which there has been a few shouts, is just being petulant. You've got to look at the bigger picture and look at what we're trying to do and what we're trying to play. I would, even if we went down, stick with him, stick with the system and stick with what we're trying to do and then go back up like we did with Dash all them years ago, do something like that. But having said that, he was making mistakes earlier in the year. He kept playing. We had Ian Martson at left back last year, who was fantastic because he would come in the middle and he'd invert and things like that. But obviously, he left to go back to Chelsea. And because company wanted to recreate that, he kept trying different players in there. Now he tried Delcroix there, who's a centre back who just got ran ragged. He tried Connor Roberts there, who's a right back. He just wasn't playing a left back at left back. And then he eventually saw Charlie Taylor in the squad, a seasoned Premier League left back, and I think that might work. And he put a left back at left back, and lo and behold, it works. We just can't do what we did last season with the inversion. But he's come in and done well. He changed the squad too much as well. Like he was always changing the team. Like we'd always met 4 changes, 5 changes, and then we just look unsettled. But for the last 3-4 games, we've made 1 change. So we do look a bit settled now. The players are getting used to the system. We have a left back at left back, and we've actually found our central midfield pairing in Josh Brownhill and Sander Berg because we kept chopping and changing that as well. And I think Cullen, as much as I love him and as good as he was last season in the Championship, he won the Championship Player of the Year, he has been getting overrun in the middle a little bit in the Premier League. So, yeah, I think we're starting to find a settled squad now.
Yeah, I think that is one of the keys really in the Premier League, the consistency with the squad. And whenever Wolves have done quite well historically in the Premier League or gone on nice runs, it's because you are making, like you said, no changes or maybe one change here and there throughout the week. So I think that is key, and company's probably got to try and find his best 11 or settle on a best 11 barring suspensions and injuries. Who are the key players though, Joe, for Wolves to look out for? I mean, you mentioned a couple of players there. Who are the key players that Wolves really need to look out for tomorrow?
Well, I am actually the owner and president of the Luca Cogliosho fan club. He is fantastic. We brought him in the summer for an absolute pittance. He from somebody like Espanyol B. Again, that's wrong. We signed so many players in the summer for so much money. I forget where some of them come from. But we signed all these players, and Luca Cogliosho come in, and he's so good because he actually gets the ball at his feet, and it sounds like something so simple, but he runs at defenders. And I know, again, it's not the best example because it's Sheffield United, but on the weekend, they were trying to double up on him and they still couldn't stop him. And we've seen quite a few teams do that now. He got an assist against Arsenal. just by running at their defence. He's class. He's got great feet as well. Like he'll do like your step overs, like really, really quick stuff like that. And he's absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love him. He will be one that your fans can look at and be like, yeah, he's a good player. And I genuinely believe if we went down, even though he's so young, he would just get picked off by a top club straight away. He'd get picked off. He's the main one. Sander Berg as well. Like he's one of them that does have a job that goes unnoticed. And I think, it was interesting because he had a poor start to life at Burnley, but he was playing in like a 6. Now, like I said, companies tweak the system a little bit to have like 2 central midfielders rather than 2 defensive 6s. So he's kind of now playing like an 8 in the box-to-box role with Brownell next to him, who's covering a lot of ground. So he will do well, but a lot of his role will go unnoticed for the majority of football fans. But Luca Koleosho, for me, obviously everyone's aware of Jay Rodriguez. He got the goal at the weekend, but he has had a slow start to life back in the Prem with us. But, he's got a couple of goals in his last 2 now. Obviously got the penalty against West Ham. And then the goal against Sheffield United at the weekend. Brun Larson, he's on the other wing. He did really well against Sheffield United, but that was his first start in the Premier League. So hopefully that can be, he can kick on from there and keep going because I want to see more of him. But if I had to choose one player, it's definitely Luca Koleosho. Like I said, he's class, and I think he's a name that will be playing for top clubs in the future.
So what side does he play on then, Joe? Left winger, is he?
Yeah, he'll play on the left of a front 3 basically, which can it's the formation is very fluid. It's more of a front 3, but it's kind of brought it back to kind of like a 4-4-2, but quite fluid. And we were playing 4-2-3-1, and we have changed it a little bit now. But yeah, he'll play on the left, and hopefully, if you've got a fullback on there who doesn't like running back towards goal, then he'll get a lot of joy.
Yeah, it'll be Semedo probably at right back, who, again, is a bit of a Marmite player amongst Wolves fans, but I always think, the likes of Jeremy Doku found it really difficult against him. He tends to keep players, quality players, quite quiet. So it'll be interesting to see if he has met his match this week at Molineux. What's the plan for the rest of the season, though, Joe, for Burnley fans? Is it just to stay in the Premier League after this shaky start?
Yeah, I think so. Whether we will or not is a different debate. There's obviously promising signs there, as I've mentioned in the last few games. But now the priority is just to get to 17th and stay there, and then regroup and hopefully kick on next year. If we go down, so be it. We go down. The Championship is so weak these days. I'm 100% confident that we bounce straight back up. I know it's easier said than done. Look at the likes of Watford and Norwich who went down with us the season before last. And then you've got the likes of Stoke who are now struggling and looking over the shoulder, potentially going into League One. So, but with the recruitment that we've done over the last 2 years and the style of players that I know that this new ownership and Vincent Kompany can attract, I'd be confident that we come straight back up. But yeah, for now, this season, finish 17th, regroup. Whether we can or not, like I said, that's a different debate. You've got Bournemouth who are, I think they were 8 points above us before the weekend, so that'll have come down a little bit now, obviously. You've got Everton, who, even though they've got -10, are still above us, which was infuriating after Saturday, that they went and then beat Forest. But I wasn't overly bothered because at the same time, I do think Everton will be fine, even with that points deduction. So we just have to try and finish above Sheffield United, Luton and Bournemouth. I think that is the priority. That was the priority before Everton's point deduction. That's still the priority now. We finish above them 3, we obviously stay up. So yeah, 17th, mate.
It will be interesting because, I'm just looking at the table now. I do think Everton, without that 10-point deduction, they would have been 12th at the moment in the league.
I think. So is it 12?
Yeah. After yesterday's results, they would have been 12, but they would have been in a good position. And then you look at the others. There's Luton, who you would assume are going to get dragged back in. Bournemouth are 1, but they've all of a sudden they've only lost once in the last 5. Forest are the 1. I think they've had an awful start.
I agree.
And again, with their fans on social media, I wouldn't mind Forest getting dragged into it, to be fair. But we'll have to wait and see. We've got them on Saturday as well, so that's a big game for Wolves.
But if you could win that for us, mate, that'd be greately appreciated.
We'll do you a favour, mate. Yeah. If you give us the 3 points tomorrow, we'll make sure we beat them on Saturday as well. But what are your thoughts in terms of score prediction, Joe? What are you thinking?
As we've said earlier, as a fan now, I'm looking at this now with more confidence. I would rip your hand off for 4 points out of our next 2. We've got yourselves, not you personally, yourselves away, and then Brighton away. I'd rip your hand off now for 3 points. 3 points out of your next 2. But I'm going to go 1-1 with this game, like I said, because of the confidence. But I think in a weird way, I'm kind of highlighting the Brighton game more because I think they will have eyes on the Europa League, whereas I think you boys know you boys will be looking at these next two fixtures and thinking, right, this is a priority. Get 2 wins out of this, and then we're probably pretty much already safe. 21 points, you'll probably need an extra 5 points throughout the course of the season to stay up. So I'm kind of earmarking the Brighton game more for the win, which sounds bizarre, but I've just given you the thought process there. It's a daft thought process, admittedly. But I'm going to go into this game and predict a draw. I think Burnley being confident will hopefully, give us the freedom to play how we want to play. I do worry about our defence, though. As I mentioned earlier, yes, we got the clean sheet against Sheffield United, but we weren't put under any real pressure, but they did still have 2 decent chances that a good side would have taken. So if any of them fall to Neto, for example, if he's back, then, we could easily be 2-0 down there. But I'm going to keep this positivity train riding along and predict 1-1.
I think it will be a close game. Like I said on your channel, I think I'm just edging towards a 2-1 Wolves. I do think both teams will score. I'm hoping that the strong Wolves home form will see us over the line. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Burnley pick something up out of the game. I think they're probably not as bad as what the league table suggests at the moment. So, Joe, before we finish off though, give a shout out to your channel. Where can people find you and your content if they wish?
Yeah, just search Turfcast Podcast on any search engine, really. We're on YouTube where I do fan reactions, pre-game shows. We've just had Dave on. That'll be out at 6 p.m. tonight. If you're watching this on Monday, sorry, I don't know when your stuff comes out, but it'll be out at 6 p.m. on Monday. So if you listen to this after 6 p.m. on Monday, it's already out. So feel free to come and check it out. But yeah, Turfcast Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Even the likes of TikTok and Threads, although they're pretty dormant, to be honest.
Threads. Oh, that was a thing. No, Joe, thank you very much for jumping on. All the best for the rest of the season after tomorrow, obviously. And I'm sure I'll catch you for the reverse fixture, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
So big thanks to Joe. I'll make sure I leave a link to the Turfcast channel in the description down below if you want to go and check them out. We did a preview over on Joe's channel as well. Like I said, I predicted a 2-1 win for Wolves, as per usual, but I think both teams will score. Wolves really struggling to keep clean sheets, so a clean sheet obviously would be a bonus for us, but we've got to make sure we get 2 positive results this week, just to, because after the last week of results, not just Wolves results, but other results going against us, you may, by the end of this week, have to start looking over your shoulder a little bit. But I think with 2 positive results, Wolves straight back in there. If we can get in and amongst the same amount of points as West Ham before we take them on a week on Saturday, that would be brilliant. And we want to be, very, very quickly, whilst I'm on here, if you want to be, where's the table? Looking at the table, if we could be in and around, even if we're 11th or 12th, going into that Chelsea game before Christmas, and maybe, I don't know, a good 10 plus points clear of the drop zone, I think, we'll be in a very good position. If we can get to, by the halfway point, over sort of 23, 24 points, I think Wolves will be in a very, very decent position going into the second half of the season anyway. Guys, do let me know your thoughts though ahead of tomorrow night's game. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. We'll be back after the game with a match reaction and the fans react. And of course, we'll be back for some more match day content later on in the week as well, ahead of Nottingham Forest at home. As always, guys, look after yourselves, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you all very, very soon.